Welcome to Podcasters of America. I'm your host, Jon Sanchez, the voice of America's small business, joined by my brother, Dr. Dennis Sanchez, and my daughter, Bailey Sanchez, Director of Marketing, Sanchez Gaunt Capital Management, and a serial entrepreneur, kind of like her old man. All right. You know, folks, we've been talking a lot about on the Jon Sanchez Show. You can find us on YouTube and, of course, Spotify,
Apple Podcasts, any
Apple Podcast,
podcast
all over the
platform.
place. We've
So
been
many we
talking a
can't
lot
remember.
about the solopreneur, the AI solopreneur, right? So many people are losing their jobs, unfortunately, and we're trying to help those of you that have the desire to become an entrepreneur to focus in on a solo AIpreneur. Why do we want to do that? Because again, with the great advent of technology now, specifically AI, it is so simple to start a business. But is it right for everybody? No, of course not. There's going to be trials and tribulations, ups and downs, like in anything that we do in life. But what we're going to accomplish on today's show is really going over the risks that are involved with becoming a solo AIpreneur, right? You want to be able to do it whenever you can, but also you should understand the risks that are associated with it. So that's what we're going to line out for you. We're going to give you 10 risks of becoming an AI solopreneur. So Dennis, let's start with you on the first one. Boy, we all experience this one. Tech grows faster than you can. What do you mean by that point?
Well, I've been on the good and the bad side of that, trying to keep track of all that stuff when I work for Microsoft, because that stuff was coming out even faster internally. It's just a challenge. It ties in with a growth mindset of always learning. That shouldn't be something that you're concerned about. It's part of being an AI solopreneur, and just get used to doing it. Make it part of your day to look out there, see what's there, but keep it in the right perspective. If you have those goals, don't get seduced into chasing every technology. If it happens to be something that aligns with your goals, then go ahead and pursue it.
Yeah, and my piece of advice on that one, to chime in to your great points, Dennis, is you can, and I find myself doing this, and you and I have a lot of discussions about this. I feel like we just grasp one technology and then it changes, and I'm like, oh my God, we feel so far behind. I think to your point, from my perspective, I mean, you're the instructor in this endeavor of ours. Is focusing on what you want AI to do for you, whether it's to write the business plan, whether it's to create your marketing plan, whatever it may be. Just focus in on that and forget about all the other noise. Because if you don't, you will, again, as you said here, you'll feel like you're behind every single day, and sometimes by the hour. Sometimes things change by the hour. And so focus in on specifically what you want AI to do and forget about the rest of it. Okay. All right, let's go to our second risk of being a solo AIpreneur. Loneliness and burnout creep. Now, Bailey, you're a great one to ask on this one, because you work alone and you actually love it, as I do. So tell me why.
So do I.
Yeah, and
And you too, Dennis. Yeah.
there are other days where loneliness does creep in, because you can get down a rabbit hole, especially using AI for your business, triggering so many questions and ideas for your business, where you look at the clock and it's already 5 p.m. and you realize you haven't stepped foot out into the sunlight for the entire day. So it really ties into the human side of things, that you need to balance your schedule. It's great to keep pushing your business forward, but you also have to have that schedule of going and doing an activity, stepping outside, getting some sunlight, because it's nice for a few days when you're working hard, and then it gets to a certain day where you realize you're alone.
Right, exactly. And I think, Bailey, you love traveling. You love sometimes working outside the scope of the office and the home and that type of thing. There's many times that you find yourself working. You amaze me, some of the places you and that laptop go to. That's one way to kind of do it, right? That gets rid of the loneliness and the burnout creep, is freshen up your environment a little bit. Go to somewhere different. Again, with today's technology, you can do that. You can work from just about anywhere as long as you have an internet connection.
Absolutely. But with being an entrepreneur too, it may sound great that you can work from Europe whenever you want to, but you also have to realize when you get there and when you want to be out exploring, you're in front of that computer, because you are the only employee. So you need to
Set
remember that you
boundaries.
have to hold
Yep.
self-responsibility no matter where you're at.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Dennis, let's go to point number 3. Clients underestimate the craft. In other words, geez, why should I pay you to do that when I can hire AI? But you have figured out this great way to say, wait a minute, AI is really the tool. You still need a human element.
And that comes from studying technology adoption for about the last 12 years, 11, 12 years. Understand what that relationship is, because, and it's, there's so many parts to this response. It's not just a person, but if you look at the stock market, what is everybody talking about? They're not talking about people. They're talking about the technology. Organizations get sucked into that. It starts there. And, we're kind of all brought into that too. We people, especially if they don't understand it and don't have hands-on experience, underestimate. For example, we learned early on with generative AI, it's not like any other technology. You can't train people the same way on it. You can't even talk to them about it because guess what? It does things sometimes you don't even know why it's doing it, how it's doing it. It's just a different experience. If we start with that, then it's not easier, but that's the right mindset.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to defer to you also on number 4, Dennis. I was going to attempt this one, but you're much more qualified, and I love this one. Your brand becomes tied to a tool. Okay, so in other words, let's say, for example, you're a Chat GPT guy
Mm-hmm.
or a Copilot gal, right? Well, you risk disappearing when, for example, Chat GPT learns to do what you do automatically. So go down that path for me.
Well, no matter what, I think we will develop preferences for a company and their range of products. Of course, Microsoft would love you to, work with them on, with every technology. And they go into an account with that in mind. They want every single transaction, every single technology thing that's going on. Where we saw an interesting line drawn with this technology is a lot of stuff was given away for free.
Yes.
And then Copilot came in, was charging from the beginning. So you had free ChatGPT and then paying for Copilot. Well, guess what? ChatGPT is now charging too. So it's a little bit different decision
For a
than
higher level of
before
service, though.
for a high level. Yeah, they're different. They're similar, but very different too in their approach. And there's just a lot of products and things out there like that. It's okay to have your preferences. If you have a really low budget, you're probably going to be looking for free choices. And there are
Right.
a lot of them out there.
Yeah, there is. And more coming all the time.
Yes.
All right, Bailey, we'll go to point number 5 with you. The skill plateaus. You basically, and boy, I've caught myself a few times in this. You almost get what I call mentally lazy, right? You stop creating original
Mm-hmm.
ideas. You start stitching together pieces of what you asked, Chat GPT or Copilot or one of the others that are out there, and you kind of get what we call creativity atrophy, right? It's atrophy, of course, is when we lose the use of our muscle. Well, we start to use the use of our brain because oh, why should I even think about going from process A to process D when ChatGPT can figure it out in a minute? How do you balance that?
Absolutely. I'll call us the pre-AI era, and us folks who are part of the pre-AI era have really come. It's like sitting in your lounge chair after a long day of standing,
Right.
right? You just embrace it. But I also have had the same issue where I will write out a few social or have AI write out a few social media posts for me, and I find myself just copying and pasting. And then I have to catch myself that that is not the proper way. It still needs to be from a human and have my touch on it. So again, putting the human side behind this and realizing that you need to put your touch on everything because
Yes.
it is very clear these days when things are just AI written. So you need to be responsible for that as well.
One
Well,
little point on
and
that.
um,
Just
go.
one little point.
Yeah.
I think the term I heard was work slop. And it's talking about that very thing. It's getting harder to really tell the difference, except people are noticing, there's just not quite the right word. It's not quite the level of emotion that somebody would actually
Or if they know your
share.
tone, they can tell, wait a minute,
No, but
that
then
email
again,
wasn't written by Frank. That's not the way he writes. So it was AI
but
driven.
some humans write like that,
Yeah.
especially technical writers and things. So it's going to get harder to figure that out. But ultimately, I think I find more pleasure. My method is get a rolling start, get a good outline, and
Mm-hmm.
now start diving into what I know and bring myself into it the best I can.
I think that's great advice. All right. Our next risk of being a solo AIpreneur is the income volatility. And I want to just preface this before I go into the answer by saying this is a risk of I
Mm-hmm.
was going to say any entrepreneur, not just a solo, but any entrepreneur. But frankly, as we see more and more people, unfortunately, losing their jobs because their company is using AI and they feel their services are no longer needed, you're always going to have income volatility. So just some of the basic things, of course, like we always want to do, especially if you're self-employed and you're just getting a business up and running. The number one reason, folks, that I have seen that businesses will fail, they're undercapitalized. So before you embark on a solo AIpreneur business. If it's going to be your primary income source, make sure you have plenty of reserves. Make sure you can have your bills paid up. Don't go into debt. Don't Just be really financially savvy, like you would with anything, before you move on to this, because it may be months before you get the first dollar coming in, or you may make your first dollar right away, or your first month. We see this a lot, especially Bailey, right, with influencers, right?
Mhm.
They'll do a social media post, they'll use AI, and all of a sudden this thing just blows up, and they've got millions and millions of viewers, and they're like, "Hey, I'm now a multi-millionaire," and they go out and they buy a mansion and a Lamborghini, and they do all these dumb things, and then before you know it, no one knows who they are, and they lose everything.
But
Don't
guess
do
what?
this.
You can
Yeah,
also ask AI, how can my new business venture survive market downturn or
right.
Mhm.
anything that could come forward? Be prepared
Absolutely.
for it.
Be
There's
prepared.
really no
It's going to
excuse
happen.
these,
Yeah.
yet it will always happen. So there's not really an excuse these days with how much data that AI has now with every historical economic event to not give you a little bit of buffer on how to prepare for it.
And besides having your reserves and just being, again, financially wise with it, the other thing that I recommend is look at multiple sources of income. Right? If you come up with a idea A with becoming your first business as a solo AIpreneur, keep your attention going to it, but maybe create a second source and a third source. See, folks, that's the great thing about AI is you can create multiple businesses literally in a matter of an hour or a couple hours, right? I don't want you to lose focus. I want you to put all your energy into one, but have something else going out there. That's the other great thing about technology nowadays, not just AI, but just technology in general. You can make what we call pajama money, right? You can create a product or a course or a service, and that thing can be sitting out on the internet and people buying it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And again, another source of income. So just like the guidance I give to a retiree, we want to have multiple sources of income coming in to weather any economic storm that may be thrown our way.
The only thing I want to add to that is, unfortunately, some people just don't have that luxury. You get laid off, you weren't planning on it, you weren't ready for it. Those things seem to happen at the Murphy's Law,
Yes.
right? At the,
Yes.
my God, medical bills or something. But you have to know that it's easier now to rebound than ever. It doesn't take $1 million idea. It's the fundamental thing. Start with the passion, start with something you really enjoy, maybe something you always wanted to do. Try it out. You can be frugal. There's so much information out there, videos and things of people that have been successful. You have a chance now if you're in that situation, even if you don't have those reserves.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Let's go to one that's not so fun to talk about, but one we must. Point number 7, the exposure to legal and compliance landmines. When we're dealing with AI, we, of course, are dealing with copyright. We're dealing with data privacy. All it takes is one. We see a lot more lawsuits beginning to surface now where businesses specifically are being sued because maybe they, again, used a copyrighted piece of material, a picture or something. And Dennis, this is something that can happen a lot with AI because once again, AI is going out there and it's learning. That's why you call it a generative AI model.
Mm-hmm.
It's going out there learning from other sources, and it's not perfect. That's why we were saying you still have to check your work and so on and so forth. But how can you minimize that chance of a legal or compliance issue using AI in your new business?
It doesn't matter how big you are, whether you're one person or a large company. Um, Look at the products that you're using. Look at the vendor. And look at the who created them, and how they address that. Microsoft is the leader in that respect, and that actually they guarantee if something were to happen where you were sued, they would actually represent you in court and pay your fines. That's a level of confidence you need with your partners and the products you use, and we're going to get used to asking those questions. How do you address that?
Right, right. Absolutely. Know your sources, as the saying goes, just like when you write a paper in college. Know your sources. All right, Miss B, let's go to point number 8. You become a doer, not a builder. Ooh, what's that
Yes.
one all about?
Again, this falls on self responsibility and making sure that you are utilizing those muscles in your brain. You cannot rely solely on what AI is going to pop out for you every single day. You have to be creative. You have to put new ideas out there. You use AI as a tool, and that is to help back your new ideas. So be creative. It'll be very apparent after a few months if you are solely just relying on AI and you are not using your creative sources to push your business.
And one thing that you do that's really, really good, Bailey, that one of your many,
She does a lot of things really
I
well.
was
Hey,
for
thanks.
thousands of great
Thanks,
skills she
guys.
has as a marketing director and entrepreneur, is creating, this great word called funnels. In other words, that's
Mhm.
a fancy term for you're creating policies, procedures, you're creating systems, because without systems, you can really get trapped into a solopreneur business that may not work. Remember, folks, you're going to try a lot of things. This is ongoing new technology. your idea may not work. Don't give up, as we'll talk about as we wrap things up in a moment. But Bailey, talk real quickly about systems and how you use AI to create systems and policies and procedures and things.
Absolutely. I mean, for the most basic example of putting out two separate ads, right? You're always testing when you're doing a business,
Love it.
whether it's a new business or existing business, like we have with the brokerage firm. And a simple example is putting out two ads, and I see which one does better. And the one that does better, are people clicking into it? Are they not signing the form? What are they not doing? I'll put those customers who are doing what I want them to do in one email funnel. I'll put the ones that are not into a separate email funnel and shoot them different content based on what they are doing or not doing. And it's very simple. It's just like how you would interact with somebody every day in life. If John answered me and said yes to sending me $10 and Dennis said no, I'd give them two different answers, right? And so it's that simple in your business as well. So always be testing in your business, whether it's content, employees, new ideas, whatever it is.
And wouldn't you say purchasing from the get go of the inception of the business, some of the great software that's out there, like High Level and some of these
Mhm.
others that create these automated funnels and follow up systems and things for you?
Absolutely.
Don't
Yeah. And
reinvent the
you can
wheel.
always reach out to me as well because I do that for folks on the side as well. Another entrepreneurial journey that I've done, but it will do that for you. Automatic triggers. So when someone signs the form on your website, it'll trigger a text message, a phone call, an email to keep getting them to do what you want throughout the lifespan of that customer journey with your business. So it's always about trying something new with those customers and not being stagnant with the
Yes.
content that you are delivering them or the messaging.
And that's the great thing about AI. It's just you can just change things. Again, you can try a media campaign. If it doesn't work, boom, no problem. It's not like you
Absolutely.
need to go back to a media company and go spend another $5,000, have them create a new campaign. You can literally do it in a matter of minutes. What's your
They
contact
call it,
information for people to reach out to learn about
sorry, yeah.
High
Yeah.
Level
Yeah,
and so on
you
and so
can
forth?
Let's
reach
hear it.
me at Bailey at SanchezGaunt.com, GAUNT. That's Bailey at SanchezGaunt.com. Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help folks at least discover the website, or you can hire me as well
Perfect.
to set all of that up for you.
Love it. That's
I'm going to
Bailey.
call you, but maybe we can work something out.
Absolutely. All right, bro. Let's wrap up with point 9, and then I'll conclude this wonderful segment. Shallow expertise temptation. Oh, this one is so easy. AI can make all of us look so doggone smart, but in reality, yeah, we're maybe not quite there yet when we start moving into certain areas.
In research, we call it a false positive, meaning that
Ooh.
we think something is true when in fact it's not. I'm sure people are going to make big mistakes. And in fact, there's even marketing out there that says you will be an expert overnight just by going to AI, having them, for example, create the course on a topic you don't know anything about, then going out there and position yourself as an expert. You know that's not true. Be honest with yourself. But it's easy to get up to a level like that with all the knowledge that's available out there, all the free learning stuff. So someone with the right motivation can become an expert. I think it's someday, at some point you're going to be called out if you don't have that level, and you might lose a customer, and that customer tell another customer. Be honest with yourself and just go after it. You can do anything you want.
Right, right. Or God forbid you get sued, right? Because you're
Yeah.
claiming something that's not true or that you can't deliver on. That's the worst thing. And that'll give AI a bad name, bad reputation if people start doing that. So, what I always tell people too along those lines is one of the easiest transitions is if you enjoyed your job. Let's say you unfortunately got laid off, and whatever your job was, if you enjoyed that job and unfortunately you got laid off, you got the knowledge, the expertise. That should be your first solo AIpreneur, type of business, right? You know it, and boy, you can really launch very quickly when you already know the issue. And I love that idea because especially if you get laid off from a big company, you're gonna go, they big company, but they didn't do it really well. I can do it better being a solopreneur and kind of fill in that niche there. So yeah, it's sky's the limit, is the bottom line. And before we wrap up, I want to again give a shout out to Dr. Dennis Sanchez and this great new ebook that he has created. It's called The Rise of the Solopreneur. The Rise of the Solopreneur. This is an offer that's only available to those of you on Podcasters of America. Go to performai.ai, and Dennis will allow you to download this book for free. It's normally $12.95 value. But The Rise of the Solo is really what I like to call a comprehensive guide. It's a guide for launching and growing a one-person business with AI, right? What we've been talking about. It covers the mindset, the tools, the step-by-step strategies needed to succeed emphasizing this, that any one of you, regardless of your background, can become an AI solopreneur by blending practical advice with emotional resilience, self-motivation, all the things that encompass a successful entrepreneur. It empowers you, the reader, to overcome these barriers, leverage technology, thrive, and most importantly, be successful. So to wrap things up, guys, like anything, there's pluses and minuses to what we do. I think this has been a great podcast for those that are contemplating. There's over 30 million solopreneurs as of 2022, representing $1.2 trillion of economic value. 1.2 trillion. Folks, this is a developing area. Learn the positives, learn the negatives of it, find your passion, and you will succeed. Dennis, wrap things up from your side, and then I'll do the same with you, Bailey.
I have to think about one thing I read a couple of weeks ago, which was really the hope of our country is on the shoulders of solopreneurs, because we have the ability to solve problems. That's what an entrepreneur does, solves problems. And we're better than anybody else because we can iterate and we can be nimble and we can keep moving on.
And there's literally people now that are, I just sent both of you a story right before we did the recording. 4 kids that dropped out of college, 22 years old, and they now have an AI company valued at about $22 billion.
Wow.
They're not millionaires, but billionaires being created. It seems like almost daily you read about, because to your point, Dennis, they're finding a problem and they're solving it. And AI is allowing them to solve it so much faster than ever before. And a lot of times for just a fraction of the capital that would normally be required. Bailey, wrap us up from your standpoint as the marketing director.
Yeah, I think the American dream is still alive and well. We just have new tools at our fingertips. So don't let it scare you. Embrace it. I know there's always pros and cons, as you said, but the world is your oyster right now with all the tools that we have available. So utilize it. Become a great entrepreneur. You can even use AI to get you excited in the morning too, even if you're not feeling it right now. So
It can be
embrace it all, because what's that?
It could be a great friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no excuse anymore to not be successful.
Absolutely. Dr. Dennis Sanchez, Bailey Sanchez. I am Jon Sanchez, host of Podcasters of America, the voice for America's small business. We thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, subscribe. You can find us on YouTube. Subscribe. Tell all your friends about us. You can pick up our podcast, of course, right here on Podcasters of America. You can also find it on YouTube. As I said, you can find it on Spotify, pretty much everywhere. Bailey's got us out there. So
Yes.
we thank all of you for joining us. We'll do it again very, very soon. God bless.
Thank you.